All right, folks, it is official. The dream season, or the, depending on your perspective, nightmare season from the Denver Broncos could not quite withstand Trace McSorley. Probably would have withstood Kyler Murray, and I think it may have withstood Colt McCoy, but Trace McSorley, too much. Just a little too much. And the Denver Broncos finally got a win. First time they've won since I've started doing these weekly videos after Denver games. So that's unfortunate. It hurts. It diminishes our current standing in terms of draft picks. But let's figure out exactly where things are now and exactly what we have to look forward to over these next few weeks. Because obviously, that has changed things. The fact that the Broncos have beaten the Cardinals has changed things a little bit. But how much exactly has it changed things? Because some recent events from prior weeks, like, for instance, the Rams pulling that miracle comeback on the Raiders, actually made it not as big a deal as it otherwise could have been. So let's be grateful for that. However, there is one very costly aspect to Denver's win on Sunday, which is we're now picking number 3. We had the number 2 pick for just a little while there, but the Bears now settle in at number 2, and the Broncos are sitting at number 3. That's another piece of good news, right? Denver's strength of schedule is below average, which means their pick is still above where the Rams pick is and where the Cardinals pick is. So, hey, there's some stuff to be grateful for here. Bottom line is, like I said a couple weeks ago, because of the way things were breaking in these other games, like for instance the Rams beating the Raiders in that miracle ridiculous game, we had a little bit of breathing room with this Denver pick. So instead of the pick falling maybe out of the top 5 entirely and us sitting here wondering, are we even going to get a top 10 pick? Because of the little things that have happened over the past few weeks that have given us additional cushion, it's still pretty good. We are number 3. So first, before we go further into what could happen over the next few weeks, let's talk about the number 3 versus the number 2. We need the Bears to win another game in the next 3 weeks, and quite frankly, it's unlikely. The Bears play home against Buffalo, and Buffalo needs to win. They have the Lions, and the Lions certainly need to win in Detroit, and then they get Minnesota. Now, Minnesota may not have anything to play for by this game. That's the window. That is your opportunity right there. If you are holding out hope that the Bears can win one more game this year, it's week 18 or nothing, almost certainly. Now, the Bears are actually playing competitive football lately. They played well against the Eagles. They looked like they had the Packers dead, and then the Packers just stormed back. They lost by 3 to Atlanta, 1 to Detroit, 3 to Miami. They're playing good competitive football. This is not a team that is just rolling over every week, but it's one of the worst teams in the league still, and these next 2 weeks you can almost pencil in the L. So if you want the the Bears to win one more game, you're looking at week 18 and you're just hoping that Minnesota's got nothing to play for, basically. If that happens, Chicago's very strong strength of schedule will take care of itself, and their picks should bump below Denver if, here's the hard part, Denver loses out. And we need Denver to lose out because, like I said, some of the recent happenings in the NFL, like the Rams getting that weird win, and a couple of the other weird wins we've had lately, teams like the Colts and teams like the Falcons, just notching those little fluky wins here and there. We could afford for Denver to win one game and still maintain a top pick, but we can't afford another, in all likelihood. If Denver wins another game, then, I mean, the most logical game that Denver can win would, of course, be in LA next week. This upcoming game on Sunday against the Rams in LA, this is their most likely path to a victory, because then after that they go to Kansas City, and then they have a home game against the Chargers. We'll talk about that game in a second here, but clearly this game against the Rams is their best chance. So that means they would jump below the Rams pick. They're probably jumping below the Cardinals pick. I don't see a Cardinals team that is likely to win another game this year. They're likely to jump below Indy's pick unless Indy wins another game this year, which that's clearly going to be an uphill challenge. I shouldn't say that. They'll probably beat Houston, right? Because everybody's beating Houston. But other than that, it's going to be hard for them to find another win. And then Denver gets into a little bit of a traffic jam with other 5-win teams if they win one more game. Atlanta, much worse strength of schedule, not even 45. Carolina, same boat. Now, I think Carolina is going to win another game or two the rest of the year, but there's no guarantee. And then you even have a team like the Saints that have 5 wins, and their strength of schedule is a little bit better than Denver's, but not by much. So suddenly, if Denver wins one more game, your top 3 pick is turning into a little bit of a car crash. And you just have to hope things shake out right so you can stay in that top 5. Because it's going to be really hard for the Rams to win another game this year if Denver beats them. And I think you can already kind of pencil in Arizona to losing out because of their injury situation. They may not even bother getting another quarterback to replace Trace McSorley. They may just lose out with him. And while you are going to see some teams, like I said, the Panthers, likely going to win at least one more game this year. Atlanta doesn't look like they're finishing strong at all. Atlanta actually looks like they're finishing with their worst football. New Orleans, who knows? So if Denver wins one more game, then you're kind of playing pachinko with that pick. It could end up like 6th, it could end up 8th, it could end up 5th. It could end up in a bunch of different places based off things that are not necessarily in your control. So again, we needed okay, let me rephrase that. We had breathing room with that pick. Now we don't. So, quite simply, if we want to maintain our position, getting a guaranteed blue chipper in this draft, we need this pick to hold right here. Maybe we can afford to drop one spot because maybe some team's going to take Bryce Young. Like, a lot of people think Houston's going to take Bryce Young number 1 overall. If so, then maybe we can afford to drop one spot. But any more than that, and I think you're getting down into the tier 2 players. To me, it's a 3-man tier 1. It really is. And I know that sounds harsh. That's how I see the draft right now. So here's the question. Broncos-Rams. Bit of a toilet bowl. The Rams have been stabilized a little bit by the presence of Baker Mayfield, but the Broncos have been playing slightly more competent football lately. Now, some of that more competent football is because of Brett Rippon, and they're going to not have him this week. Apparently, Wilson's going to go. And you could actually see that with Rippon in there, their offense actually worked on a more fundamentally sound level. Do they lose that when they put Wilson back in? Who knows? Is their defense going to be able to... their defense honestly hasn't played that great over the last couple games. Are they going to be able to find themselves again? It's really hard to know. Like, it feels like this Denver team has a little bit of momentum, but I don't know if it's real momentum. They fell down 27-0 against Kansas City and then did a bunch of stuff in pseudo garbage time against a prevent defense, and then they beat up on an Arizona team. They had a genuinely really good second half against Arizona, but how much of that was just Arizona kind of throwing the towel in on the season? So if we can clear the Rams game, we should be okay. I will say there is some possibility of the Chargers, who currently sit in the 6th seed, not having a ton to play for when they get to that Week 18 game. Who knows? That's going to be interesting because even if it happens, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. The Chargers might still say, hey, we want to go into the playoffs with momentum, or maybe they say, hey, we want to try to get the 5 seed, or we want to stay out of the 7 seed. We don't want to have to play a team like the Chiefs or the Bills in the first round. We want to play the Bengals. And then there are some teams out there that are going to be in that situation and go, well, we don't really care who we play. We just want to get in the playoffs. Let's play our backups in Week 18. If that happens, then the Broncos beating them is on the table. But if they play their starters, I can't imagine it happening. The Chargers, in their current state, much better team than the team that needed overtime to beat the Broncos way back in Week 6. They have Rashawn Slater back. They've gotten some of their receivers back. Their offensive line in general seems like it's just playing a little bit better. So if they bring it in that game, I've got no real concerns. Now, we're just going to have to wait and see if the Chargers bring it when that game comes around. It's just impossible to know how Brandon Staley's going to view that spot. But right now, the only thing that really matters is we need to get clear of this Rams game. Broncos-Rams, toilet bowl, on deck. Who's got it? Who's going to win? If the Broncos win, this becomes a little bit dicey, right? Because, again, you're probably at that point picking 5th overall at best, and it could easily fall to like 7 or 8. My prediction would be if Denver does win against the Rams, if they win this weekend, then I think you're going to end up picking about 6. But if you get the Rams win there, if the Rams beat the Broncos, then I think you are going to hold at number 3. I don't think the Bears are going to win another game this year, although I'm not completely ruling it out. Again, there are going to be some things beyond football that control this, right? Like, we just don't know if the Vikings are going to give a crap about the Week 18 game. We're going to have to get there and see. So, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a little bit of a mess down the stretch here. We're going to need some things to break our way. But most importantly, we need the Broncos to keep losing. Because Seahawks fans have gotten a sniff of C.J. Stroud, Jalen Carter, Will Anderson. And if they sniff them and then they don't get them, they're going to be a little bit salty about it. I can already see it developing. It would be a real shame to, within a couple of weeks, suddenly realize, oh, okay, we got to settle for Myles Murphy instead. And I like Myles Murphy a lot, but there's a big difference between Jalen Carter and Myles Murphy. So that's the situation right now. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to get out of here. Peace out. Go Hawks. More videos later today. Should be live on Twitch for a long time today. Hope to see y'all there.